The mining station, Bhatti 180, hung in the darkness between stars like a forgotten toy. It was old, built by humans 50 years ago when they first pushed into the outer rim. The station spun slowly, creating gravity for the 300 souls who called it home. Most of them were miners, pulled from Earth's poorest regions with promises of wealth and adventure. What they got instead was hard work, recycled air, and the constant hum of machinery that never truly slept. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck, watching the asteroid field drift past. She had been stationed here for 2 years, and every day felt longer than the last. The asteroids were rich with minerals that Earth needed desperately: platinum, iridium, rare Earth elements that made the galaxy's technology possible. Bhatti 180 existed for one reason only: to pull those rocks apart and send their treasures home. Behind her, the door hissed open. Chen did not need to turn around to know who it was. Only one person on this station walked with such heavy, deliberate steps. "We have a problem," said Chief Engineer David Okonkwo. His voice was deep and tired, the voice of a man who had seen too many problems to get excited about one more. Chen sighed. "What kind of problem?" The scanners picked up something. Not an asteroid, not a comet, something else. Now Chen turned. Okonkwo's face was serious, his dark eyes shadowed with concern. In 2 years, she had never seen him look worried. Annoyed, yes. Frustrated, certainly, but never worried. "Show me," she said. They walked through the station's narrow corridors, past crew quarters where off-shift miners slept in stacked bunks, past the cafeteria where the smell of synthetic protein filled the air, past the medical bay where Dr. Yuki Tanaka treated the endless stream of injuries that came from working with heavy machinery in zero gravity. The station was a maze of metal and plastic, every surface worn smooth by countless hands. The command center was small, barely large enough for 5 people to stand without touching. 3 technicians sat at their stations, eyes fixed on screens that showed the space around Bhatti 180. Okonkwo moved to the main display and pulled up the scan data. Chen studied the image. At first, she saw nothing unusual, just the familiar pattern of asteroids, each one tagged with information about its composition and trajectory. Then Okonkwo zoomed in, and she saw it. The object was massive, easily 10 times larger than Bhatti 180. It had a strange shape, all angles and curves that seemed wrong somehow. No asteroid looked like that. No human ship looked like that either. "How far?" Chen asked. 2 million kilometers, coming closer." "Speed?" "That is the interesting part," Okonkwo said. "It is not moving like something in orbit. It is not following any natural path. It is coming toward us, deliberately." The word hung in the air like smoke. Deliberately. That meant intelligence. That meant someone or something had seen Bhatti 180 and decided to investigate. Humanity had been reaching for the stars for 70 years. They had built stations and colonies, sent ships to distant worlds, and claimed territory across dozens of systems. In all that time, they had found ancient ruins and dead civilizations. They had found bacteria in simple life. But they had never found anyone else who could build ships and cross the void. Until now, perhaps. "Send a message," Chen ordered. "Standard first contact protocol, all frequencies." One of the technicians, a young woman named Maria Santos, worked her console. "Message sent, no response yet." They waited. Minutes passed. The object kept coming, steady and silent. "Try again," Chen said. "Include our position, our purpose, peaceful intentions." Santos sent another message. Still nothing. Chen felt her heart beating faster. First contact was supposed to be historic, momentous. Humanity had protocols and procedures, trained diplomats and scientists ready to make the introduction. Bhatti 180 was not supposed to be part of that story. They were just miners, forgotten people doing forgotten work. "Commander," said Okonkwo quietly, "I think you should see this." He pulled up another screen. This one showed energy readings from the approaching object. Chen did not understand all the numbers, but she understood enough. Whatever was out there, it was powered by something that made Bhatti 180's fusion reactor look like a candle. Could it be automated? She asked. An old probe, maybe? Something left over from one of those dead civilizations? Okonkwo shook his head. The power signature is too active, too variable. Something is making decisions over there. Chen made a decision of her own. Sound General Alert. Get everyone to their stations. And someone wake up Lieutenant Morrison. Tell him to prep the security team. Bhatti 180 had security, though it was a small force. Their job was to break up fights between drunk miners and make sure nobody stole supplies. They had weapons, but nothing designed for combat, nothing designed for war. The alert klaxon echoed through the station, a harsh sound that cut through walls and doors. People stumbled from their beds, confused and frightened. The day shift miners were in the middle of their work cycle, cutting into an asteroid the size of a city block. They stopped their machines and waited for instructions. Chen activated the station-wide communication system. Her voice would reach every corner of Bhatti 180, every corridor and compartment. This is Commander Chen. We have detected an unknown object approaching our position. This is not a drill. All personnel report to your designated stations and await further instructions. Stay calm. We are taking all necessary precautions. She tried to sound confident, tried to sound like she had everything under control, but her hands were shaking, and she gripped the edge of the console to hide it. The object kept coming, 1,000,000 kilometers now, close enough that the station's telescopes could get a better look. The image appeared on the main screen, and everyone in the command center stopped breathing. It was a ship. There was no doubt about that, but it was like no ship humanity had ever built. The hull seemed to shift and flow, patterns of light moving across its surface like living things. Strange symbols glowed in colors that hurt to look at. And at the front, where a human ship might have sensors or weapons, there was something that looked almost like a face. Not a human face, something else. Something that watched them with eyes that burned like dying stars. Lieutenant James Morrison arrived at the command center within 5 minutes of the alert. He was a former military man, discharged after a training accident had left him with a limp and a medical pension that barely covered rent. Bhatti 180 had been his second chance, a way to earn real money and maybe save enough to start over somewhere better. He had brought his service rifle with him, an old kinetic weapon that fired metal slugs at hypersonic speeds. "What are we looking at?" he asked, studying the image on the screen. "Unknown vessel," Chen said. "Alien, we think. It has not responded to our messages." Morrison whistled low. "Well, that is just perfect. We have got 6 security personnel, 20 mining lasers, and a station that could not outrun a garbage scow. What is the plan?" "The plan is we stay calm and keep trying to communicate," Chen said. But even as she spoke, she knew how hollow it sounded. The alien ship was huge and powerful, and it was coming straight toward them. If its intentions were hostile, Bhatti 180 would be dust before they could even call for help. The nearest Earth military vessel was 3 weeks away at maximum burn. The nearest colony was 2 weeks away. Bhatti 180 was alone out here, and everyone on the station knew it. Dr. Tanaka entered the command center, her medical bags slung over one shoulder. "I heard the alert. What do you need from me?" "Nothing yet," Chen said. "Just be ready. If this goes wrong, there will be injuries." Tanaka nodded. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, but she had steady hands and a calm demeanor that made people trust her. She had patched up broken bones, treated radiation burns, and once talked a miner out of suicide when the isolation got too heavy. If anyone could keep people alive through whatever was coming, it was her. The alien ship slowed as it approached, its engines flaring with light that shifted through colors the human eye was not meant to see. It stopped 500,000 kilometers away, close enough to see clearly, but far enough that Bhatti 180 could not reach it with their limited equipment. For a moment, nothing happened. The ship just hung there in space, silent and watching. Then the communication system crackled to life. But it was not a voice that came through. It was sound, raw and terrible, that bypassed the speakers entirely and seemed to come from inside everyone's skull. The people in the command center cried out and clutched their heads. Some fell to their knees. The sound was not loud, but it was wrong. Like hearing a scream underwater or the grinding of metal against bone. Chen forced her eyes open and looked at the screen. The alien ship was transmitting something, but the station's computers could not process it. Numbers and symbols scrolled across the display too fast to read, patterns that made her dizzy. "Cut the feed," she shouted. "Someone cut the feed." Santos slammed her hand on the emergency shutdown, and the sound stopped. People gasped for air, holding their heads and checking their ears for blood. Morrison had drawn his rifle, though what he thought he could shoot Chen did not know. "Is everyone all right?" Chen asked. People nodded slowly. Okonkwo was leaning against a console, his face gray. "That was not communication," he said. "That was assault. They were trying to hurt us. Or they were trying to communicate and do not understand how fragile we are," Tanaka said. She was checking each person in the room, looking for signs of serious injury. Their biology might be completely different. They might not realize that frequency could harm us. Chen wanted to believe that. She wanted to think this was just a misunderstanding, a case of two species trying to talk across a gap too wide to bridge easily. But the feeling in her gut said otherwise. "Try sending another message," she said. "Simple math, prime numbers, something universal." Santos worked her console, sending out a stream of pulses in a mathematical sequence. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. The building blocks of logic, the same in any language. The alien ship responded immediately, but instead of sending a signal, it did something else, something impossible. The asteroids around Bhatti 180 began to move, not slowly drifting on natural orbits, but quickly and with purpose. 12 asteroids, each one the size of a building, changed course and began moving toward the station. The mining crew outside saw them coming and fled back to the station in their suits, scrambling through airlocks and shouting warnings. "They are throwing rocks at us," Morrison said. "That is an attack." Chen's mind raced. The station had thrusters, but they were meant for small adjustments, not dodging. The asteroids were coming from multiple angles, moving too fast to avoid them all. If even one hit Bhatti 180 at that speed, it would tear through the hull like paper. "Okonkwo, can we move?" she asked. "Not fast enough, not far enough." "Can we destroy them? The mining lasers?" "The lasers are designed for cutting, not combat. We might break up one or two, but not all of them, and the fragments would still hit us." Chen looked at the screen. The asteroids were 3 minutes away. 200 people were going to die, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. The thought made her want to scream, to rage against the unfairness of it. They were miners. They were not soldiers or explorers. They were just people trying to make a living in the cold dark. Then Morrison spoke. "Wait, those asteroids, they are the ones we have been mining. We put charges in them, demo packs for breaking up the big pieces." Okonkwo's eyes went wide. "The charges are still active. We could detonate them." "Will that work?" Chen asked. "I do not know. The explosions might just create more fragments. Or they might scatter the asteroids enough to miss us. It is a chance." A chance. That was all they had. "Do it," Chen ordered. Okonkwo's fingers flew across his console, accessing the mining network and finding the detonation controls. The demo packs were simple devices, designed to be reliable and powerful. Each one could blast a 50-meter crater in solid rock. 30 seconds to impact, Santos said. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. Okonkwo found the first charge, then the second, the third. He was running out of time. The asteroids were so close now that the station's exterior cameras could see them coming, massive chunks of stone and metal tumbling through space. 10 seconds, Santos said. Okonkwo entered the final detonation code and slammed his hand down on the execute button. Space outside Bhatti 180 lit up like a string of firecrackers going off. 12 explosions, one after another, tearing the asteroids apart. Fragments flew in every direction, some toward the station, some away, some spinning off into the void. Chen watched the screen, counting the seconds. A piece of rock the size of a car hit the station's hull and bounced off, leaving a dent but no breach. Another piece flew past, missing by meters. A third piece struck one of the solar panels, ripping it away in a shower of sparks. But the station held. The hull held. And when the dust settled, Bhatti 180 was damaged, but alive. The command center erupted in cheers. People hugged each other, laughing and crying at the same time. They had survived. Against all odds, they had survived. Chen did not cheer. She was looking at the alien ship, still hovering in the distance. It had attacked them once. What would stop it from attacking again? The station fell into an uneasy silence after the attack. The cheering stopped as people realized the alien ship was still there, still watching. Chen ordered damage assessment teams to check every section of Bhatti 180, looking for hull breaches, broken systems, anything that might threaten their survival. The solar panel they had lost provided 15% of their power. They could compensate with the fusion reactor, but it meant tighter rationing and harder choices. Morrison stationed his security team at key points throughout the station. It was a token gesture, meaningless against an enemy that could throw asteroids with its mind, or technology, or whatever impossible thing it had. But people needed to see someone standing guard. They needed to feel like something was being done. Chen stayed in the command center, watching the alien ship. It had not moved since the attack. It just hung there in space, silent and still. Was it waiting for something? Planning its next move? Or was it just observing, studying these strange humans who had survived its test? Test. The words stuck in Chen's mind. What if that was exactly what it had been? Not an attack meant to destroy, but a test to see how they would respond, to see if they were smart enough, fast enough, tough enough to survive. "Commander," Santos said, "I am picking up another transmission from the alien ship. Different from the first one. Lower frequency, narrower band. Should I let it through?" Chen hesitated. The first transmission had hurt everyone who heard it. What if this one was worse? What if it was designed to kill? But they had to know. They had to understand what this alien wanted. "Let it through," she said, "but keep your hand on that emergency shutdown. If anyone shows signs of distress, cut it immediately." Santos nodded and activated the communication system. This time the sound was different. It was still strange, still unlike anything Chen had heard before, but it did not hurt. It pulsed and hummed, rose and fell in patterns that almost sounded like speech. The station's computer tried to analyze it, breaking it down into component frequencies and comparing them to known languages. The computer found nothing. This was not human speech, not anything in their database. But the patterns were there, repeating sequences that suggested meaning. Someone was trying to talk to them. "Can we respond?" Chen asked. Okonkwo pulled up the communication controls. "We can send audio, but I do not know if they will understand it any better than we understand them." "Let me try something," Tanaka said. She had been standing quietly in the corner, listening and watching. Now she stepped forward to the console. "May I?" Chen nodded. Tanaka activated the microphone and made a sound. Not words, not speech, just a simple tone. A single note held for 3 seconds. Then she changed the pitch, went higher, then lower, then back to the original. A pattern, simple and clear. She waited. The alien ship responded. The same pattern came back, the tone and rhythm identical. Then it added more. extended the sequence, made it more complex. Tanaka smiled. It is listening. It is learning. She continued, building a vocabulary of sounds and patterns. High meant yes, low meant no. Rising tone meant question, falling tone meant answer. It was crude, primitive even, but it was communication, real communication. Hours passed. The people in the command center took turns at the console, each person adding their own ideas, their own sounds and patterns. Santos was good with rhythm. Okonkwo understood mathematical sequences. Morrison, surprisingly, had studied music before joining the military and could create complex harmonies. Slowly, painfully, they built a bridge between two species who had never imagined the other existed. Chen sent a simple message. "Who are you?" The response took several minutes. When it came, the station's computer had learned enough to provide a rough translation. The words appeared on the screen, awkward and broken, but readable. Shepherds, watch, guard, protect. Chen frowned. Protect what? Another pause, then. Void, dark, between. The alien ship sent another transmission, this one including visual data. The screens showed a map of space, but not like any map Chen had seen before. It showed something moving through the galaxy, something vast and hungry that consumed stars and left nothing behind. The image made Chen's stomach turn. Whatever this thing was, it was ancient and terrible and heading toward human space. How long? Chen asked. How long until it arrives? The response was immediate. A number appeared on the screen. The computer converted it into human terms. 70 years. 70 years until that darkness reached Earth, until it swallowed everything humanity had built. Chen felt the weight of that knowledge settle on her shoulders. 70 years seemed like a long time, but it was nothing on a cosmic scale. Nothing at all. Why tell us? She asked. Why warn us? The alien ship's response was longer this time, more complex. The translation was rough, but the meaning came through. Young, fierce, survived. Might help. Might matter. Chen understood. The aliens had tested Bhatti 180, thrown asteroids at them to see how they would react. And humanity had passed. They had survived. They had proven they were clever and tough, and maybe, just maybe, worth saving. Or worth recruiting. What do you want from us? Chen asked. The response was simple and terrifying. Join, fight, survive together, or die alone. Morrison let out a long breath. Well, that is pretty clear. They want allies. Against what? Santos asked. What is that thing in the image? What could be so dangerous that these aliens need our help? Okonkwo pulled up the visual data again, studying it closely. Look at the pattern of destruction. Whatever this is, it does not just destroy planets. It unravels them, breaks them down at the molecular level. Nothing survives, not even information. It is like it erases things from existence. Entropy, Tanaka said quietly. Heat death. The end of everything. That is what we are looking at. Chen shook her head. No, entropy is a natural process. It takes billions of years. This is something else, something intelligent, something that chose to become this. The thought was almost too horrible to contemplate. Some species, somewhere in the distant past, had decided to transform itself into a force of pure destruction, had given up identity and purpose and existence itself to become an engine of annihilation. Can it be stopped? Chen asked the alien ship. The response took a long time. Chen imagined the aliens on the other end, debating among themselves, deciding how much truth to share. Finally, the message came through. Stopped? No. Slowed? Maybe. Fought? Yes. Must. Chen looked around the command center at the faces of her crew. They were scared. Who would not be? They had come out here to mine asteroids, not to fight cosmic horrors. But they were also something else. They were determined. They were survivors. "Commander," Morrison said, "we need to report this to Earth. They need to know." "Agreed," Chen said. "Send a priority transmission, everything we have learned, all the data, and tell them we need instructions." Santos began composing the message. It would take weeks to reach Earth, and weeks more to get a response. By the time the politicians and generals decided what to do, the alien ship might be gone. The opportunity might be lost. Chen made a decision. She activated the communication system and spoke directly to the alien ship. "We hear you. We understand. Bhatti 180 accepts your offer. We will fight. We will help however we can. Tell us what you need." The alien ship's response was immediate, and Chen could almost sense satisfaction in the patterns of sound. "Good. Brave. We'll teach. We'll prepare. First lesson begins now." The alien ship moved closer to Bhatti 180, and with each kilometer it crossed, Chen felt her heart beat faster. The vessel was massive, dwarfing the mining station by a factor of 10. Up close, the patterns on its hull were even stranger, flowing and shifting like oil on water, colors that should not exist bleeding into one another. The face-like structure at the front seemed to focus on them, and Chen could not shake the feeling of being examined by something impossibly old and impossibly intelligent. A small craft detached from the alien ship. It was sleek and smooth, about the size of a cargo shuttle, and it moved with a kind of grace that human ships could never achieve. No visible thrusters, no exhaust plumes, just effortless motion through the void. "They are sending something," Santos said, "heading for our main docking port." Chen activated the station-wide intercom. "All personnel, we are about to receive visitors. Remain calm. Stay at your posts. Security team, meet me at Docking Bay 3. Morrison was already moving. "You are not going down there alone, Commander." "I know," Chen said. "That is why you are coming with me." They walked through the station together, Morrison's rifle slung across his back, Chen's hand resting on the sidearm at her hip. Around them, the station's crew watched from doorways and corridors, their faces pale and frightened. Some of them had families back on Earth. Some of them had children they had not seen in years. All of them understood that the next few hours might determine whether humanity had a future. Docking Bay 3 was at the outer ring of the station, a large chamber with heavy doors and airlocks designed to handle cargo shipments. A dozen miners stood nearby, holding their cutting tools like weapons. They were not security, but they were brave enough to stand between the unknown and the people they cared about. "Stay back," Chen told them. "If something goes wrong, seal the doors and vent the bay. Do not let anything get into the rest of the station." One of the miners, a big man named Carlos, with scars on his hands from years of hard work, shook his head. "With respect, Commander, we are not leaving you in there alone." Chen wanted to argue, but she saw the determination in their eyes. These were people who had stared at death every day, who worked in vacuum and radiation, and knew that any mistake could be their last. Fear was an old companion to them, and they had learned not to let it stop them. "All right," she said, "but stay near the exits. If I give the order, you run." The alien craft approached the docking port with impossible precision. There was no fumbling, no adjustment burns, just a perfect connection that locked into place with a soft click. The external sensors showed the craft forming a seal with the airlock, but the atmosphere readings were strange. The alien ship was pumping something into the connector, but it was not air, not anything close to air. "Should we equip suits?" Morrison asked. Chen considered it. Suits would protect them from hostile atmospheres, but they would also limit mobility and communication. And if the aliens wanted to kill them, a suit would only delay the inevitable. "No," she said. "We go as we are. Show them we trust them, or at least that we are not afraid." That was a lie, of course. Chen was terrified. But leadership meant pretending otherwise. The airlock cycled, the inner door opened, and something stepped through. It was not what Chen had expected. She had imagined tentacles or strange geometries, something alien and incomprehensible. What came through the door looked almost human, almost, but not quite. The being stood on two legs and had two arms, but its proportions were wrong. Too tall, too thin, joints that bent in ways that made Chen's eyes hurt. Its skin was smooth and gray, and it seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The head was elongated, with large eyes that had no pupils, just pools of darkness that seemed to contain entire galaxies. It wore something that might have been clothing or might have been part of its body, a flowing material that shifted and changed color with each step. And when it moved, it made no sound. No footsteps, no breathing, nothing. The being stopped a few meters from Chen and regarded her with those impossible eyes. Then it spoke, and the sound came not from any mouth or throat, but from the air itself, as if the universe was speaking on its behalf. Greetings, Commander Sarah Chen of Bhatti 180. I am designated Watcher 17 of the Shepherd Fleet. I have been chosen to serve as liaison between your species and ours. The words were in perfect English, though the voice had a quality that was neither male nor female, young nor old. It simply was. Chen found her own voice, though it came out rougher than she intended. Welcome to Bhatti 180. We are honored by your presence. She was not sure if that was true, but diplomacy required certain pleasantries. Watcher 17 tilted its head in a gesture that might have been acknowledgement. Your species fascinates us. You are young, barely emerged from your birth world, yet you spread across the stars with remarkable speed. You fight among yourselves constantly, yet you come together when threatened. You are individually weak, yet collectively strong. These are valuable traits. You tested us, Chen said. The asteroids. That was a test. Yes, we needed to understand your nature. Would you flee? Would you beg for mercy? Would you fight back with intelligence and creativity? The answer determines whether you are worth saving. Morrison stepped forward, his hand near his rifle. You could have just asked. Watcher 17 turned its gaze to him, and Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. Those eyes saw too much, understood too much. Words are easy, actions reveal truth. Your species' history is filled with promises broken and treaties ignored. We do not trust words, we trust behavior. Chen raised a hand, stopping Morrison from responding. You said you would teach us. What do we need to learn? Everything, Watcher 17 said. Your technology is primitive. Your understanding of the universe is incomplete. Your weapons would be useless against the devourer. You are infants playing with fire, unaware that a flood is coming. Then help us, Chen said. Give us your technology, your weapons, whatever we need to fight. No. The word hung in the air like a sentence of death. Knowledge cannot be given, Watcher 17 continued. It must be earned. If we simply hand you our technology, you will not understand it. You will misuse it. You will destroy yourselves with it. This has happened before with other species. We will not make that mistake again. Then what? Chen asked. You came here to tell us we are all going to die? We came here to offer you a choice, Watcher 17 said. We will teach you, guide you, show you how to evolve beyond your current limitations. But you must prove yourselves worthy. You must show us that humanity is capable of more than war and greed, that you can set aside your differences and work toward a common goal. And if we cannot? Watcher 17's eyes seemed to darken. Then we will leave you to face the devourer alone, and you will die. Every human, every world, every memory of your species will be erased from existence. This is not a threat. This is simply the reality of what is coming. Chen felt anger rising in her chest. Anger at this alien's arrogance, at the unfairness of being judged by beings who had never struggled the way humans had struggled. But she swallowed the anger because rage would not save anyone. What do you want us to do? She asked. Watcher 17 reached into its flowing garment and produced an object. It was small, about the size of a human fist, and it glowed with a soft blue light. The object seemed to shift and change shape as Chen watched, never settling into a single form. "This is a seed," Watcher 17 said, "planted in your station's main computer core. It will grow, adapt, learn from your systems. It will become a bridge between your technology and ours. Through it, we can communicate more clearly. Through it, you can begin to learn." Morrison spoke up again. "How do we know it is not a weapon? How do we know you are not trying to take control of our station?" "You do not," Watcher 17 said simply. "This is what trust requires. A leap into darkness, hoping you will land safely on the other side. We have taken that leap by coming here, by revealing ourselves to you. Now you must take your own leap." Chen looked at the glowing object, then at Watcher 17, then at the faces of her crew. They were watching her, waiting for her decision. The weight of 300 lives pressed down on her shoulders. The weight of humanity's future pressed even harder. She reached out and took the seed. It was warm in her hand, pulsing with energy that she could feel through her skin. Chen held the seed carefully as they walked back to the command center. It pulsed against her palm like a second heartbeat, warm and alive in a way that made her deeply uncomfortable. Watcher 17 followed behind them, moving with that unnatural silence that made the hairs on Chen's neck stand up. Morrison kept his hand near his rifle, though both of them knew it would be useless if the alien decided to attack. The corridors of Bhatti 180 were crowded now. Word had spread that aliens were on the station, and people pressed against the walls to watch the strange procession. Some stared with wonder, others with fear, a few with hostility, their faces hard with the kind of suspicion that came from a lifetime of being exploited by those more powerful. Chen understood their fear. She felt it herself. But fear would not save them. Only action would. They reached the command center where Okonkwo was waiting with a team of technicians. He had cleared a space around the main computer core, a cylinder of processing units in quantum storage that formed the brain of Bhatti 180. It was old technology by current standards, but reliable and well-maintained. "You sure about this, Commander?" Okonkwo asked quietly. Chen was not sure about anything, but she nodded anyway. "Do it." Okonkwo took the seed from her hand. Up close, it looked even stranger, the surface flowing and shifting like liquid trapped in an invisible container. He approached the computer core and opened an access panel, revealing a nest of cables and connectors. "Where does it go?" he asked Watcher 17. The alien moved forward, its elongated fingers pointing to a specific port. "There, it will do the rest." Okonkwo hesitated for just a moment, then pressed the seed against the port. It melted into the machine, the blue light spreading through the cables like veins of luminescence. The computer core hummed, its pitch rising and falling as new processes came online. The screens in the command center flickered. Lines of code appeared, scrolling too fast to read. The station's lights dimmed, then brightened, then settled into a different quality of illumination. Something fundamental had changed in the way Bhatti 180 processed information. "Status?" Chen asked. Santos checked her console. "All systems responding. Actually, they are responding better than before. Processing speed is up 40%. Sensor range has increased, and we are getting data from parts of the station we could not access before." "The seed is integrating with your technology," Watcher 17 explained. "It will not control your systems. It will enhance them. Think of it as a translator and amplifier. It will help you see what you could not see before, understand what you could not understand." Tanaka, who had been studying the readouts on one of the medical displays, let out a small gasp. "Commander, look at this." Chen moved to her side. The display was showing biological data, scans of the crew's health that the medical bay conducted automatically. But now the scans were deeper, more detailed. Chen could see neural patterns, genetic markers, even the quantum states of individual cells. "This is incredible," Tanaka whispered. "With this level of detail, I could diagnose conditions before they become symptomatic. I could treat injuries we considered untreatable. This is decades beyond our current medical technology." "This is a fraction of what you will learn," Watcher 17 said. "But understand, Commander Chen, that knowledge comes with responsibility. The more you understand about the universe, the more you will understand how fragile your species truly is." "Show us," Chen said. "Show us the devourer. Show us what we are facing." Watcher 17 gestured, and the main screen changed. The image showed a galaxy, thousands of stars clustered in spiral arms of light and beauty. Then a darkness appeared at the edge, a void that was not simply the absence of light, but something more fundamental. It moved through the galaxy like a cancer, and wherever it touched, stars went dark. Not exploded, not collapsed, just ceased to exist, as if they had never been there at all. "The devourer was once a species like yours," Watcher 17 said. "They achieved great heights of civilization. They unlocked the secrets of matter and energy. They bent space and time to their will. But it was not enough. They wanted more. They wanted to become gods." The image zoomed in, showing a single star being consumed. Chen watched in horror as the star's light drained away, its matter unraveling into component particles. Those particles breaking down into quantum foam, that foam collapsing into nothing. It was entropy accelerated to impossible speeds, the heat death of the universe compressed into seconds. "They developed a technology that could manipulate fundamental forces," Watcher 17 continued. "They thought they could control it, direct it, use it to reshape reality itself. They were wrong. The technology consumed them first. It ate their bodies, their minds, their civilization. And when there was nothing left of them, it continued consuming. It became an entity with only one purpose: to feed, to grow, to erase." "How do we fight something like that?" Morrison asked. The tough security officer's voice shook with something close to despair. "You do not fight it directly," Watcher 17 said. "That would be like trying to stop a tsunami by punching it. Instead, you must become something it cannot easily consume. You must evolve." "Evolve?" Chen repeated. "How? Evolution takes millions of years." "Natural evolution, yes. But there are other paths. The shepherds have walked them. We can show you the way. But it will require sacrifice. It will require you to change fundamental aspects of what makes you human." The room fell silent. Chen understood what Watcher 17 was saying. To survive, humanity would have to become something else, something more than human, something that could stand against the darkness. "What kind of changes?" she asked. Watcher 17's eyes seemed to glow brighter. "Your bodies are fragile. We can teach you to become more durable, to interface directly with technology, to survive in environments that would kill you now. Your minds are limited. We can show you how to process information faster, to think in multiple parallel streams, to connect with each other on levels you cannot imagine. Your lifespans are brief. We can extend them, give you centuries instead of decades to prepare for what is coming." It sounded like salvation. It also sounded like horror. "And the cost?" Chen asked, because there was always a cost. "Identity," Watcher 17 said simply. "If you follow this path, you will no longer be quite human. You will be something new, something hybrid. Some of your people will accept this, others will resist. There will be conflict, there will be pain, but the alternative is extinction." Chen thought about Earth, about the billions of people who had no idea what was coming. She thought about children being born right now, taking their first breaths, unaware that in 70 years a darkness would swallow their world. She thought about all the art and music and literature humanity had created, all the dreams and hopes and struggles. All of it would be erased, unless they changed, unless they sacrificed what they were for a chance at survival. "I cannot make this decision alone," Chen said. This affects all of humanity. Earth needs to know. They need to decide. Earth is 3 weeks away, Watcher 17 said. By the time they receive your message and respond, much time will be lost. The Devourer moves faster than you realize. 70 years sounds like a long time, but it is barely enough to prepare, even if you start now. Then what do you suggest? Begin here, Watcher 17 said. Let Bhatti 180 be the first. Let your crew volunteer to undergo the initial changes. We will document everything, prove that the process works, show Earth that this is possible. When they see what you have become, when they understand what you have gained, they will follow. Morrison spoke up. You want us to be guinea pigs? I want you to be pioneers, Watcher 17 corrected. The first of a new humanity, the bridge between what you were and what you must become. Chen looked around the command center at the faces of her crew. Santos, young and brilliant, with a whole life ahead of her. Okonkwo, steady and reliable, the kind of man who kept the world running. Tanaka, compassionate and skilled, who had dedicated her life to healing. Morrison, scarred and tough, who had already given so much for people who barely remembered his name. I need to talk to my crew, Chen said. All of them. They deserve to know what they are being asked to do. Agreed, Watcher 17 said. Gather them, I will explain, and then each person must choose for themselves. This cannot be forced. The changes will not work on an unwilling mind. Chen activated the station-wide intercom. All personnel, this is Commander Chen. Report to the main assembly hall immediately. This is not a drill. This is the most important meeting we will ever have. The main assembly hall was designed to hold the entire crew of Bhatti 180, though it rarely did. Usually it hosted shift briefings or emergency drills, quick gatherings that lasted minutes before people returned to their duties. Now, for the first time since Chen had been commander, every single person on the station was present. 300 faces looked up at her. Miners with calloused hands and tired eyes. Technicians who kept the station running. Medical staff, kitchen workers, maintenance crews. Young people who had come seeking adventure. Old people who had nowhere else to go. All of them waiting to hear why they had been called away from their work. Chen stood on the raised platform at the front of the hall, Watcher 17 beside her. The alien's presence caused a ripple of whispers and gasps. Most of the crew had heard about the visitor, but few had seen it in person. The sight of something so clearly not human, so utterly other, made the reality of their situation impossible to ignore. Listen to me, Chen said, and her voice carried through the hall speakers. What I am about to tell you will sound impossible. Some of you will think I have gone crazy. Some will think this is a trick. But I need you to listen with open minds because our lives depend on it. All our lives. Everyone we have ever known. She told them everything. The devourer, the shepherds, the choice they were being offered. She did not soften the truth or hide the dangers. These were people who lived with danger every day, who understood that life in space meant facing reality head-on. When she finished, silence filled the hall. Then the questions started. Why us? Someone called out. Why not the military? Why not trained soldiers? Chen had wondered the same thing. She looked at Watcher 17, who stepped forward to answer. Because you are here, the alien said. Because you survived our test. Because you represent something essential about humanity. The ability to adapt, to solve problems with limited resources, to work together when survival demands it. Soldiers are trained to follow orders. We need people who think for themselves. A woman near the back stood up. Chen recognized her as Maria Rodriguez, one of the senior miners. What exactly are these changes you want to make to us? Will we still be ourselves? That is a complex question, Watcher 17 said. The core of who you are, your memories and personality will remain, but your capabilities will expand. Your bodies will be enhanced with biosynthetic components. Your neural pathways will be optimized. Your senses will perceive more of reality than they do now. You will be more than you are, but not less than you are. That sounds like turning us into machines, someone else shouted. Into robots. Not machines, Watcher 17 said. Hybrids. The best of biological life and the best of technology merged into something new. The shepherds walked this path millions of years ago. We survived. We grew stronger. We are still ourselves, but we are also more. Carlos, the big miner who had volunteered to guard the docking bay, stood up. What if we say no? What if we do not want to change? Then you will not change, Watcher 17 said. This is voluntary. Those who choose to remain as they are will be respected. But understand that those who change will gain advantages you do not have. They will be faster, stronger, smarter. They will live longer. This may create divisions in your society. It will definitely create divisions, Morrison muttered, loud enough for those nearby to hear. Tanaka raised her hand. How safe is the process? What is the failure rate? Among the shepherds, less than 1%, Watcher 17 said. Among humans, we do not know yet. Your biology is different. There will be risks. I will not lie about that. But we will monitor everything carefully. We will start slowly, with volunteers who understand the dangers. An older man, one of the engineers, stood up. His name was Thomas, and Chen knew he had a wife and grandchildren back on Earth. Even if this works, even if we all become these hybrids, can we actually stop the devourer? You said it has been consuming galaxies. What makes you think we can make a difference? Watcher 17 paused, and Chen sensed something like sadness in that pause. We cannot stop it. Not completely, but we can slow it. We can create barriers it must spend time breaking through. We can evacuate species from its path, preserve them, keep them alive. And perhaps if we gain enough time, we can find a way to reverse what was done, to heal the wound in reality that the devourer represents. Or perhaps we all die anyway, Thomas said bitterly, just with more time to think about it. Yes, Watcher 17 said simply, that is possible. But which is better, to die fighting with hope or to die doing nothing with certainty? The hall erupted in debate. People argued with each other, voices rising and falling in waves of emotion. Some were angry, some were scared. Some, surprisingly, seemed excited. Chen let them talk, let them process what they had learned. This was too big a decision to rush. After 30 minutes, she called for order. I am not going to force anyone to do anything, she said, but I am asking for volunteers, people willing to undergo the first phase of changes, people willing to be the test subjects so we know what works and what does not. I will be the first. If you want to follow me, add your name to the list. She pulled out a data pad and wrote her name at the top. Then she passed it to Morrison, who looked at it for a long moment before adding his own name. Tanaka took it next, writing quickly and passing it along. The data pad moved through the hall. Not everyone added their name. Chen watched people pass it by, saw the fear and doubt in their eyes. She did not blame them. What was being asked was enormous. But others signed, young people seeking purpose, old people with nothing left to lose, people who had families and signed anyway because they wanted those families to have a future. By the time the data pad returned to Chen, it held 87 names, 87 out of 300, less than a third, but it was enough to start. Thank you, Chen said to the volunteers. Thank you for your courage. To those who did not sign, thank you for your honesty. We will need everyone working together, changed and unchanged, if we are going to survive this. No one is less valuable because they chose differently. She meant it, but she wondered if it would be true. How long before divisions formed? How long before the enhanced looked down on the unenhanced? How long before humanity split into two species? Those were problems for later. Right now, they had work to do. Watcher 17 led the volunteers to the medical bay, which had been expanded and modified using the knowledge from the seed. The room looked different now, filled with equipment that had not existed an hour ago. The seed had transformed the station's fabricators, taught them to build things from patterns stored in its alien memory. In the center of the bay stood a chamber large enough for a human to lie down in. It was made of a material that seemed to shift between solid and liquid, and it glowed with soft blue light. "This is where the transformation will begin," Watcher 17 said. "You will enter one at a time. The process takes approximately 6 hours. During that time, you will be unconscious. When you wake, you will feel different, strange, but the feeling will pass as you adapt." "What exactly will change?" asked Santos, who had been one of the first to volunteer. "We will start with the foundation," Watcher 17 said. "Your cells will be infused with nano-assemblers, microscopic machines that will repair damage and optimize function. Your bones will be reinforced with carbon lattice structures. Your muscles will be enhanced with synthetic fibers. Your nervous system will be augmented with faster signal transmission. These are the basic upgrades. Later, if you choose to continue, there will be more." Chen stepped forward. "I will go first." Morrison grabbed her arm. "Commander, if something goes wrong, then you will be in charge," Chen said. "But someone has to be first, and it should be the person who made the decision to trust these aliens." She climbed into the chamber and lay down. The material molded around her body, warm and strangely comfortable. Watcher 17 stood beside her, those dark eyes looking down with an expression she could not read. "You are brave, Sarah Chen," the alien said. "Your species is lucky to have you." "My species is desperate," Chen said. "Desperation makes everyone brave." "No," Watcher 17 said. "Desperation makes people reckless. Bravery is choosing to act despite fear, not because of it. You are brave." The chamber closed. Chen felt a tingling sensation spread through her body, starting at her fingertips and toes and moving inward. It was not painful, but it was intense. She tried to stay calm, tried to breathe steadily. The last thing she saw before consciousness faded was the readout on the chamber's display. Her heart rate, her neural activity, her body temperature, all of it being monitored, recorded, analyzed by an alien intelligence that was about to change what it meant to be human. Then darkness took her, and she dreamed strange dreams of stars being born and dying, of civilizations rising and falling like waves on an endless ocean, of a darkness that hungered and a light that refused to be extinguished. Chen woke to a world transformed. That was her first thought, though she quickly realized it was not the world that had changed. It was her perception of it. The medical bay looked the same, but she saw it differently now. She could count the individual particles of dust floating in the air. She could hear the subtle vibration of the life support systems 3 decks away. She could smell the chemical composition of the cleaning solution used on the floors days ago. Every sense had been amplified, refined, made precise in ways that were almost overwhelming. She sat up slowly, expecting dizziness or pain. There was neither. Her body felt strong, efficient, like a machine that had been perfectly tuned. She looked at her hands and saw they looked the same, but when she concentrated, she could feel the changes beneath the skin. The carbon structures in her bones, the synthetic fibers woven through her muscles, the nano-assemblers flowing through her bloodstream like tiny guardians. Tanaka appeared beside her, medical scanner in hand. "How do you feel, Commander?" Chen considered the question. "Different. Better. More. It is hard to explain." "Your vitals are remarkable," Tanaka said, studying the readouts. "Heart rate is steady at 50 beats per minute. Blood pressure is perfect. Neural activity is off the charts. According to these readings, you are thinking about 3 times faster than before." Chen stood and the movement was effortless. She felt like she could run a marathon without breaking a sweat. She felt like she could solve complex equations in her head. She felt powerful in a way that was both exhilarating and frightening. Morrison was watching from across the room, his expression unreadable. "Well," he asked, "was it worth it?" Chen thought about that. 6 hours ago, she had been human in the way humans had always been human. Now she was something else, something more. But had she lost anything in the process? She searched her memories, her childhood on Earth, her training at the academy, her first assignment, her failures and victories. Everything was still there, clear and sharp. Perhaps too clear. She could remember conversations from years ago word for word. She could recall the exact smell of her mother's cooking, the precise sound of rain on the roof of her first apartment. "I am still me," she said finally, "but I am more than I was. And yes, I think it was worth it." Morrison nodded slowly. "Then I guess it is my turn." Over the next 3 days, the volunteers went through the transformation one by one. Not everyone reacted the same way. Santos emerged talking rapidly about the mathematical patterns she could suddenly see in everything around her. Carlos woke up lifting weights that would have broken his back before. One of the younger miners, a woman named Jason, discovered she could interface directly with the station's computers, pulling up information just by thinking about it. But there were problems too. 3 people had adverse reactions. One developed severe headaches that lasted for hours before the nano-assemblers adjusted their neural pathways. Another experienced temporary paralysis in their left arm until the synthetic muscle fibers integrated properly. The third, a man named Dmitri, simply could not handle the sensory overload and had to be sedated for a full day while his brain adapted. All 3 survived, but the experience shook some of the remaining volunteers. 10 people withdrew their names from the list, choosing to remain unchanged. Chen did not blame them. The process was terrifying even when it worked correctly. Watcher 17 observed everything, taking notes in ways that humans could not perceive, analyzing data that flowed directly from the medical equipment to its own alien consciousness. Sometimes it offered suggestions that prevented complications. Other times it simply watched, letting humanity learn through experience. On the 4th day, with 40 volunteers successfully transformed and the rest waiting their turn, Earth responded to Chen's initial message. The transmission came through on the command center's main screen. It was Admiral Patricia Okafor, head of Earth's deep space operations. She was a stern woman with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much bureaucracy. "Commander Chen," the Admiral said, her voice tight with controlled anger, "I have read your report 3 times, and I still cannot decide if you are a hero or if you have lost your mind. Alien contact, an existential threat, unauthorized human enhancement. Do you have any idea what you have done?" Chen had expected this reaction. "I have given humanity a chance to survive, Admiral. That is what I have done." "You have opened a door we cannot close," Okafor said. "What happens when people back home hear about this? When they learn that some humans are being transformed into hybrids? When they see the enhanced as threats? We will have riots. We will have religious wars. We will tear ourselves apart before this devourer even arrives." "Then we need to show them why it is necessary," Chen said. "Send observers. Send scientists. Let them see what we have learned. Let them see that the changed are still human, still people worth caring about." Okafor was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. "I am sending a ship. It will arrive in 12 days. They will bring medical experts, security forces, and diplomats. They will evaluate what you have done and make recommendations to Earth's government. Until then, you are ordered to pause all transformations and maintain strict quarantine protocols. No one leaves Bhatti 180. No one communicates with other stations. This situation needs to be contained until we understand it." "Understood, Admiral," Chen said, though she knew containment was already impossible. The seed had changed Bhatti 180 in ways that could not be hidden or reversed. And the shepherd's ship was still here, still watching. They were part of this now, whether Earth was ready or not. The transmission ended. Chen looked around the command center at the faces of her crew. Some were unchanged, still fully human. Others bore the subtle signs of transformation: sharper eyes, smoother movements, an intensity that had not been there before. "What do we do now?" Santos asked. "We prepare," Chen said. "We train. We learn everything we can from Watcher 17. And when Earth's ship arrives, we show them what we have become. We show them hope." The next 12 days were the most intense of Chen's life. Watcher 17 taught the transformed volunteers how to use their new abilities, how to process information faster, how to coordinate their movements with precision, how to interface with technology in ways that felt like telepathy, but were actually just advanced neural connectivity. Chen discovered she could link her consciousness directly to the station's sensors. It was a strange feeling, like suddenly having eyes everywhere at once. She could see the alien ship. She could see the asteroid field. She could see the distant stars that marked humanity's claimed territory. All of it felt present, immediate, real. The enhanced volunteers developed a bond with each other. They could share information through the station's network, thoughts and ideas flowing between them faster than speech. It was not telepathy exactly, but it was close. Chen worried about what this meant for privacy, for individuality. But she also saw how it made them stronger as a group, how it let them work together with an efficiency that seemed almost superhuman. Because it was superhuman. That was the point. That was what they had to become. Morrison led training exercises, teaching the enhanced how to fight, how to defend themselves. The security officer was one of the most changed, his old injuries healed, his body rebuilt stronger than it had ever been. He moved like a dancer now, every motion economical and precise. Watching him work was like watching art. Tanaka focused on medical applications, using her new abilities to develop treatments for conditions that had been incurable before. She could see inside people's bodies now, perceiving the flow of blood and electricity and chemical signals. She saved 2 lives in those 12 days, catching problems before they became critical. Carlos organized the miners, teaching them how to use their enhanced strength safely. One man accidentally crushed a metal support beam with his bare hands before learning proper control. Another cut through an asteroid 3 times faster than before, her enhanced reflexes and perception letting her work with perfect precision. The unchanged crew members watched with a mixture of awe and fear. Some grew jealous, others grew resentful. Chen tried to bridge the divide, to remind everyone that they were still one crew, one team. But she could feel the fracture forming, the slow split between human and transhuman. On the 11th day, Watcher 17 approached Chen in her quarters. The alien did not knock, simply appeared in the doorway, as if it had been there all along. "You are troubled," it said. Chen did not bother denying it. "My crew is dividing. The enhanced and the unenhanced are starting to see each other as different, as other. I was supposed to bring people together, not tear them apart." "This was inevitable," Watcher 17 said. "Change always creates division. The question is not whether it happens, but how you respond to it." "How did your people respond?" Chen asked. "When the shepherds first started changing?" "Badly," Watcher 17 admitted. "There were wars. Entire planets were destroyed. Millions died before we learned to accept that multiple ways of being could coexist. But we learned, and that learning made us stronger." "How long did it take?" "Thousands of years," Chen laughed bitterly. "We have 70. "Then you will have to be faster learners than we were," Watcher 17 said. "But I believe you can be. Humans are remarkably adaptable when survival demands it." "Is that meant to be comforting?" "It is meant to be true." The Earthship arrived exactly on schedule. It was a military cruiser, the ECS Valiant, bristling with weapons and sensors. Chen watched it approach through the station's enhanced systems, seeing it in wavelengths that normal human eyes could not perceive. The ship was designed to intimidate, and it succeeded. Admiral Okafor herself had come, along with a team of 50 specialists, military officers, scientists, diplomats, and what Chen suspected were intelligence operatives trying to look like scientists. They docked at Bay 1, the largest airlock on Bhatti 180, and came aboard with the careful caution of people entering potentially hostile territory. Chen met them in the main reception area, accompanied by Morrison, Tanaka, and Okonkwo. She had debated whether to bring enhanced or unenhanced crew members and had ultimately chosen a mix. Show them the reality, she had decided. Show them both sides of humanity's possible future. Admiral Okafor was shorter in person than she appeared on screen, but her presence filled the room. She looked Chen up and down with the practiced eye of someone trained to spot differences, threats, weaknesses. "You look well, Commander," Okafor said. "Too well, perhaps. I was told the transformation was dangerous." "It was. It is," Chen said. "But we learned. We adapted, just like humans always do." "Or you became something that is no longer human," said a man standing behind Okafor. He was tall and thin, wearing the insignia of Earth's Science Council. "Dr. Raymond Casper, Xenobiology. I am here to determine exactly what you have become." Chen felt her enhanced senses pick up subtle details about Casper. His elevated heart rate, the slight tremor in his hands, the chemical signature of fear-induced adrenaline in his sweat. He was terrified of them, she realized. Terrified and trying to hide it behind scientific authority. "I am still human, Doctor," Chen said carefully. "I still have the same memories, the same values, the same sense of self. I have simply gained new capabilities." "That is what every transhuman experiment has claimed," Casper said. "Before they decided they were superior to baseline humans. Before they decided we were obsolete. Before they tried to eliminate us." Morrison spoke up, his voice cold. "We are not trying to eliminate anyone. We are trying to save everyone." "By forcing them to change," Casper shot back. "By making them obsolete whether they like it or not." "Enough," Admiral Okafor said. She turned to Chen. "Show us everything. The alien ship, the technology, the transformed personnel. And then we will make our own judgments." For 3 days, Chen gave them a complete tour of what Bhatti 180 had become. She showed them the enhanced crew members, let them run tests and scans. She introduced them to Watcher 17, facilitated conversations between human and alien. She demonstrated the abilities the enhanced had gained. The strength, the speed, the mental processing, the technological interface. The response from Earth's team was mixed. Some of the scientists were fascinated, excited by the possibilities. They saw the enhancement as the next step in human evolution, a chance to survive challenges that would otherwise destroy them. Others were horrified, viewing the transformation as a violation of human nature, a corruption of what made people valuable in the first place. The military officers were more pragmatic. They saw potential weapons, potential advantages. They asked about combat applications, about how many enhanced soldiers could be created, about whether the technology could be controlled or restricted. Chen answered honestly, which meant admitting she did not know all the answers. But the breakthrough came when Dr. Casper, the skeptical xenobiologist, witnessed Tanaka save a life. One of the Earth ship's crew, a young technician named Rebecca Moore, suffered a sudden aneurysm while touring the station. It happened without warning, a blood vessel in her brain rupturing. Normally this would have been fatal. Even with immediate medical attention, the survival rate for such injuries was low. But Tanaka was there. Her enhanced senses detected the problem instantly, the subtle change in Moore's brain chemistry, the spike in neural activity that preceded the rupture. She moved faster than seemed possible, catching Moore as she fell, already calling for medical equipment through her neural link to the station's systems. Casper watched as Tanaka worked. The doctor's hands moved with impossible precision, guided by senses that could literally see inside Moore's skull. She manipulated nano-assemblers through the injured woman's bloodstream, directing them to the rupture site. Within minutes, the bleeding was stopped. Within an hour, the damaged tissue was being repaired. Moore survived. More than survived, she woke up with no permanent damage, no cognitive impairment. She would make a full recovery. Casper stood in the medical bay afterward, staring at the readouts that showed what Tanaka had done. His hands were shaking, but not from fear this time. From something else, something like hope. "That should not be possible," he whispered. "The human brain does not heal like that. The damage was too severe." "The human brain does not," Tanaka agreed, "but the enhanced human brain, guided by alien technology and millions of years of accumulated medical knowledge, that can do things baseline humans cannot." Casper looked at her, really looked at her, perhaps for the first time seeing not a threat, but a person. "How many could you save? With abilities like yours, how many lives could you preserve that would otherwise be lost?" "I do not know," Tanaka said honestly. "Millions, maybe. If I could train others, if we could spread this knowledge to every hospital, every medical facility on Earth." "But at what cost?" Casper asked. "How many would have to change to gain these abilities?" "Not everyone," Tanaka said. "That is the beauty of it. We are not trying to replace humanity. We are trying to augment it. Some people will choose enhancement, others will not. Both can coexist. Both have value." Casper nodded slowly. "I need to think about this. I need to run more tests. But Commander Chen, Dr. Tanaka, I owe you an apology. I came here thinking you were a threat. I see now that you might be our salvation." The mood shifted after that. The scientists from Earth became more cooperative, more willing to learn. They began working alongside the enhanced crew, combining baseline human insight with transhuman capabilities. New ideas emerged from that collaboration, solutions to problems that neither group could have solved alone. But not everyone was convinced. Some of the military officers remained suspicious, and when Admiral Okafor called Chen to a private meeting on the fifth day, Chen knew difficult questions were coming. They met in Chen's quarters, just the two of them. Okafor sat down heavily, and for the first time since arriving, she looked tired, old, human in a way that made Chen remember what she had been before the change. "I am going to ask you something," Okafor said, "and I need you to answer honestly, not as a commander but as a person. Are you still loyal to Earth? To humanity?" Chen met her eyes. "Yes, absolutely." "How can I believe that? You have abilities we do not. You think faster, process information differently. How do I know your loyalty has not changed along with everything else?" "Because loyalty is not about capability," Chen said. "It is about choice, about deciding what matters and committing to it. I chose to serve humanity. That has not changed. The enhancement did not take away my ability to choose. If anything, it made me more aware of why that choice matters." Okafor studied her for a long moment. Earth's government is terrified. They see what you have become, and they imagine a future where enhanced humans rule over baseline humans, where we become second-class citizens in our own species. "That does not have to happen," Chen said. "But it could. Power concentrates. It always has. Those with advantages use them to gain more advantages. How do we prevent that?" Chen thought about this carefully. "By making sure the transformation is available to everyone who wants it. By preventing anyone from monopolizing the technology. And by ensuring that enhanced and baseline humans have to work together, that neither can succeed without the other." "Is that even possible?" "I do not know," Chen admitted. "But the alternative is extinction. The devourer is coming. Whether Earth likes it or not, whether we are ready or not, it is coming. We can spend our time fighting each other over who gets to be enhanced, or we can spend it preparing to fight for survival. The choice is ours." Okafor sighed. "I am going to recommend that Earth approve continued research into the enhancement process. Controlled, regulated, voluntary research. But Chen, you need to understand something. If this goes wrong, if enhanced humans become a threat, Earth will respond with force. We have weapons that could sterilize entire stations. We will use them if necessary. I understand, Chen said. And she did. She understood fear. She understood the instinct to destroy what you did not understand before it could destroy you. It was a very human trait, one that enhancement had not removed. I am also recommending that Bhatti 180 become the primary research facility for human-shepherd cooperation, Okafor continued. You will receive resources, personnel, support, but you will also be watched closely, very closely. That is fair, Chen said. Okafor stood to leave, then paused at the door. I hope you are right, Commander. I hope this is humanity's salvation and not its end. Because if you are wrong, history will remember you as the person who destroyed our species. After she left, Chen sat alone in her quarters, thinking about responsibility and consequences. 70 years from now, humanity would face the devourer. Would they be ready? Would the choices she had made today prove wise or foolish? She did not know, but she had made a choice, and now she had to live with it. That was what leadership meant. That was what being human meant, enhanced or not. 6 months passed. Bhatti 180 transformed from a forgotten mining station into humanity's most important facility. Ships arrived weekly, bringing scientists, volunteers, observers. The station expanded, new modules added to accommodate the growing population. What had once housed 300 now held nearly 1,000 people, all dedicated to one goal: preparing humanity for what was coming. The transformation process improved with each iteration. Fewer complications, faster recovery, better integration. Dr. Casper, who had arrived as a skeptic, became one of the program's strongest advocates. He published papers explaining the science behind the enhancement, making it accessible to baseline humans who feared what they did not understand. His work helped calm some of the panic that had erupted on Earth when news of the transformation first spread. But not all panic could be calmed. Religious groups declared the enhancement an abomination, a violation of divine will. Political movements formed around resistance to transhuman technology. 3 colonies in the outer systems refused to allow enhanced humans to visit, declaring themselves baseline-only zones. Violence erupted in some places, enhanced and baseline humans attacking each other out of fear and misunderstanding. Chen watched it all through the station's communication feeds, her enhanced mind processing dozens of news streams simultaneously. She saw the fear, she saw the anger, she saw humanity doing what it had always done, fighting itself even as a greater threat approached. Watcher 17 seemed unsurprised by any of it. Your species is young, the alien told Chen one evening as they stood in the observation deck, watching the shepherd ship drift against the stars. Young species always struggle with change. They cling to what was, fear what might be, but they learn, eventually. Will we learn fast enough? Chen asked. That depends on you, on people like you who can see both sides, understand both perspectives. You are enhanced, but you remember what it was to be baseline. You can bridge the gap. Chen was not sure that was true. Sometimes she felt the gap widening, felt herself becoming something that baseline humans could not fully understand. She tried to maintain connections with the unenhanced crew members, tried to treat them as equals. But it was hard when she could think circles around them, when she could process information they could not even perceive. Morrison noticed her struggle. He approached her one day in the command center, after the day shift had ended and the station had settled into its night cycle. You are isolating yourself, he said bluntly. I have seen it before. Happens to anyone who gets too much power. They stop seeing other people as equals. Chen started to deny it, then stopped. Morrison was right. I do not mean to. I know, but meaning does not matter. Results do. You need to spend more time with the baseline crew. Eat meals with them. Work on simple projects. Remind yourself what it was like to be them. I remember, Chen said. Remembering is not the same as experiencing. Your memories are perfect now, right? You can recall everything in perfect detail. But that is not how normal people remember. We forget. We misremember. Our past changes in our minds. That is part of being human. Chen considered this. He was right again. Her perfect memory was another barrier between her and baseline humanity. She could recall conversations word for word, but she had lost the ability to have the kind of fuzzy, uncertain memories that normal people lived with. "What do you suggest?" she asked. "Stop being Commander Chen for a few hours each day. Be Sarah, the person you were before all this. Play cards with the miners, help in the kitchen, do something normal." She tried. It was harder than expected. The miners played cards at speeds that seemed glacial to her enhanced perception. She had to deliberately slow her thinking, force herself not to calculate probabilities or read micro-expressions. The kitchen work was easier, though she had to be careful not to chop vegetables too fast or lift pots that would have been too heavy for a baseline human. But it helped. She felt more grounded, more connected, and the baseline crew seemed to relax around her, seeing her as a person rather than a symbol of transhuman superiority. Meanwhile, the training continued. Watcher 17 taught combat techniques that combined human instinct with alien technology. The enhanced volunteers learned to fight in ways that would have been impossible for baseline humans, moving through three-dimensional space with perfect coordination, sharing tactical information through neural links, adapting to threats faster than any enemy could react. But they also learned defense, how to protect baseline humans who could not protect themselves, how to coordinate with unenhanced forces, how to use their advantages without becoming dependent on them. Because Watcher 17 had made one thing very clear: the Devourer could adapt. It learned from everything it consumed. If humanity relied too heavily on enhancement, the Devourer would find ways to counter it. They needed diversity. They needed both enhanced and baseline forces working together, creating complexity that the Devourer could not easily unravel. "Think of it like an immune system," Watcher 17 explained during one training session. "A body with only one type of defense is vulnerable to anything that can overcome that defense. But a body with multiple types, multiple layers, multiple strategies, that is much harder to destroy." The metaphor resonated. Humanity was one body now, enhanced and baseline, together. Both parts were necessary. Both parts had to work in harmony. Earth's government finally issued its official policy on enhancement. After months of debate, investigation, and political maneuvering, they announced that the transformation would be voluntary and available to all citizens over the age of 18. Governments could not force anyone to change, but they also could not prevent anyone from choosing to change. It was a compromise that satisfied no one completely, which probably meant it was the right decision. Applications flooded in. Millions of people wanted the enhancement. They saw it as an advantage, a way to improve their lives beyond just survival. Earth's scientists worked with the shepherds to establish transformation centers on every major world, with strict regulations and safety protocols. But millions more rejected it. They saw their baseline humanity as sacred, something worth preserving. They formed communities and support networks, places where unenhanced humans could live without feeling inferior or obsolete. Chen watched humanity split into two camps and worried about the future. But Tanaka pointed out something important during one of their conversations. "Look at how many couples are mixed," the doctor said, showing Chen's statistics on relationships between enhanced and baseline humans. "Look at how many families have both types. People are not segregating themselves completely. They are finding ways to coexist." It was true. Children of enhanced parents were choosing to remain baseline. Baseline parents were supporting their children's decisions to transform. Love was proving stronger than ideology, at least in many cases. 1 year after first contact, Watcher 17 announced that the Shepherd fleet was ready to move to the next phase. They had been preparing humanity for defense. Now it was time to prepare them for offense. The Devourer must be fought on multiple fronts. The alien explained to an assembly of Earth's military leaders and Bhatti 180's crew. You cannot stop it, but you can slow it. You can evacuate species from its path. You can create barriers it must work to break. And perhaps, if you are fortunate, you can find a way to reverse the process that created it. How do we fight something that erases matter? Admiral Okafor asked. She had been promoted to head of Earth's Deep Space Defense Forces, spending much of her time now at Bhatti 180. You do not fight the erasure directly, Watcher 17 said. You fight the intelligence that guides it. The Devourer was once a species. That species left behind patterns, remnants of its original form, buried deep within the destructive force it became. If those patterns can be found and understood, perhaps they can be exploited. Perhaps the Devourer can be convinced to stop, or at least to change its trajectory. You are talking about communicating with it? Casper asked, his enhanced mind already working through the implications. About reasoning with a force of pure destruction? I am talking about finding the ghost of what it once was, Watcher 17 said. Every species leaves echoes, even one that tried to erase itself from existence. Chen felt something stir in her chest. Hope, maybe, or determination. If there was a chance, however small, to stop the Devourer without just running from it forever, they had to take it. What do you need from us? She asked. Ships, crews, both enhanced and baseline working together. We will travel to the edge of Devourer's current position. We will study it up close, learn its patterns, find its weaknesses. And we will do this while also evacuating species from its path, because we must save who we can. It was a massive undertaking. Earth's government committed resources, ships, personnel. Other species that the shepherds had contacted over the millennia pledged support. An alliance was forming, not out of friendship or shared values, but out of shared survival. Bhatti 180 would lead the first mission. Chen would command. Morrison would serve as her tactical officer. Tanaka would head medical research. Okonkwo would manage the ship's systems, and Watcher 17 would guide them, teach them, help them navigate the dangers they would face. They spent 3 months preparing. The station was partially dismantled, its most valuable components integrated into a new vessel. A hybrid ship combining human and shepherd technology, capable of surviving near the Devourer's edge. They named it Prometheus, after the myth of the firebringer. It seemed appropriate. They were stealing fire from gods and monsters. The day before departure, Chen stood in the observation deck one last time, looking at Earth's distant sun. Somewhere out there, billions of people were living their lives, unaware of how close they had come to extinction, unaware of the sacrifices being made on their behalf. Morrison joined her. Nervous? He asked. Terrified, Chen admitted. We are going to fly toward the thing that has destroyed galaxies. What if we fail? What if we make things worse? Then we fail, Morrison said simply. But at least we tried. At least we did not just sit here waiting to die. Chen smiled. When did you become a philosopher? Since you made me transhuman. All this extra brain capacity has to go somewhere. They laughed together, and for a moment Chen felt almost normal. Almost like the person she had been before Watcher 17 arrived. But only almost. That person was gone, transformed into something new, something that would fly into darkness and fight for humanity's future. Tomorrow they would leave. Tomorrow the real battle would begin. The Prometheus launched from what remained of Bhatti 180 on a cold morning in late March. Chen watched through the ship's sensors as the mining station grew smaller, a cluster of modules and machinery that had once been her entire world. Now it was just a starting point, a place where humanity had taken its first steps towards something greater. The crew numbered 200, half enhanced, half baseline. Engineers, scientists, soldiers, diplomats, people from 20 different nations, speaking 15 different languages, united by one purpose. Behind them, the Shepherd fleet followed at a distance. 5 massive vessels that made the Prometheus look like a toy. Watcher 17 stood beside Chen on the bridge, its dark eyes fixed on the void ahead. "The journey will take 40 days, the alien said. "We will use faster-than-light travel, but carefully. The Devourer's influence extends beyond what you can see. We must approach slowly, measuring every change in space and time." Chen activated the intercom. "All hands, this is the commander. We are beginning our journey now. What we do in the next few weeks will determine the future of every species in this galaxy. Stay alert, stay focused, and remember why we are here. Not for glory, not for recognition, but because someone has to stand between the darkness and the light. That someone is us." She closed the channel and gave the order to engage the faster-than-light drive. The Prometheus shuddered, reality bending around it, and then they were moving through space in ways that human senses were not designed to comprehend. Chen's enhanced perception helped, letting her process the strange geometries and impossible distances, but even she felt a fundamental wrongness in what they were doing. The first week was routine. The crew settled into their duties, baseline and enhanced working side by side. There were some tensions, inevitable when 2 types of humanity were forced into close quarters, but Morrison handled them with the same blunt efficiency he handled everything else. On the 8th day, they received their first transmission from an evacuated species. The Shepherds had been conducting rescue operations for decades, moving civilizations out of the Devourer's path. This group was called the Methane Breathers, a species that lived on gas giants and had no fixed form. Their message was translated by the Prometheus's enhanced computer systems. "You fight the end of all? Why? It cannot be stopped." Chen recorded a response. "Because trying is better than surrendering. Because every day we buy is another day for life to exist. Help us understand it. Tell us what you know." The response came hours later. "We watched it consume our birth world. It does not simply destroy, it unweaves. It takes what was and makes it never was. Our history, our art, our memories, all erased as if they never existed. Fighting it is futile. We can only run." But running was not good enough, Chen thought. Running meant abandoning world after world, species after species. Running meant accepting that the galaxy would eventually be empty, nothing but the Devourer and the fled. On the 15th day, they detected their first anomaly. The sensors picked up a region of space that should not exist, where the laws of physics seemed to be breaking down. Watcher 17 studied the readings with what might have been satisfaction. "This is the Devourer's wake," the alien explained. "Everywhere it passes, it leaves scars in reality, wounds that do not heal. This one is 300 years old, yet still it bleeds." Casper, who had joined the mission as chief science officer, ran detailed scans. His enhanced mind worked through the data at speeds that would have seemed impossible a year ago. "The fundamental constants are wrong here. The speed of light is slower. Entropy is accelerated. It is like the universe is tired in this region, worn out." "Can it be repaired?" Chen asked. "Unknown. Perhaps with enough energy, enough time, the universe might heal itself. Or perhaps these wounds are permanent. We simply do not know." They pressed on, passing through regions of damaged space, seeing the evidence of destruction that stretched back millions of years. The Devourer was old, impossibly old. It had been consuming galaxies since before humans learned to walk upright. On the 23rd day, they made first contact with another species that was fighting back. The Crystalline Collective, beings made of living mineral, had developed weapons that could slow the Devourer's advance. Not stop it, but slow it. Their ship approached the Prometheus, a structure that looked more like a geometric sculpture than a vessel. The communication came through in mathematical patterns that Chen's enhanced mind could interpret. "You are the young ones, the flesh beings who just learned they are dying. Welcome to the war." "Can we meet?" Chen asked. Exchange information? Yes, we have much to teach, and perhaps you have something to teach us. Hope is valuable, even if it proves false. They rendezvoused in neutral space, the two ships linking through docking tubes that adjusted to accommodate radically different biologies. Chen led a team aboard the crystalline ship, including Morrison, Tanaka, Kaspar, and Watcher 17. The interior was beautiful, all angles and refractions, light splitting into rainbows that danced across surfaces. The crystalline beings were present everywhere and nowhere, their consciousness distributed throughout the ship's structure. They communicated by modulating the light, creating patterns that Chen's enhanced vision could read. "We have fought the Devourer for 11,000 years," they said. "We have learned its patterns. It moves in spirals, consuming from the outside in. It learns from what it destroys, becoming stronger with each civilization it erases. But it also has weaknesses, redundancies in its structure, places where the original species' intelligence still flickers." "Can those flickers be reached?" Chen asked. "Can we communicate with what remains?" "We have tried. The response is always the same, a scream of hunger. The original species wanted to become gods. They succeeded, in a way. They became a god of destruction, and gods do not listen to mortals." "But they might listen to other gods," Watcher 17 said quietly. The crystalline collective pulsed with what might have been surprise. "What do you mean?" "The shepherds are old, almost as old as the Devourer. If enough of us combined our consciousness, reached out together, we might bridge the gap. We might make contact with what remains of the original species." "That would require thousands of shepherds," the crystalline being said. "Perhaps millions, and it would be dangerous. The Devourer's consciousness is vast and hungry. It could consume you." "Yes," Watcher 17 agreed, "but perhaps it is worth the risk." They discussed strategy for hours. The crystalline collective shared their data, their experience, their hard-won knowledge. In return, humanity offered something unexpected: creativity. The enhanced and baseline humans working together generated ideas that neither the crystalline beings nor the shepherds had considered. New approaches to old problems, fresh perspectives on ancient questions. It was what Watcher 17 had hoped for, what the shepherds had tested Bhatti 180 to find. Humanity's gift was not their technology or their strength. It was their ability to think differently, to find novel solutions, to refuse to accept that any problem was truly impossible. On the 35th day, they reached the edge of the Devourer's active region. The sensors showed a wall of darkness ahead, a void that seemed to devour even light itself. Ships that got too close simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris, just gone. "We cannot go further," Watcher 17 said, "but we can observe, study, learn." They spent 3 days gathering data, using every sensor the Prometheus possessed. Chen saw patterns in the destruction, rhythms and cycles that suggested intelligence. The Devourer was not random. It was deliberate. It chose its targets, prioritized certain types of matter and energy over others. And then, on the 3rd day, something happened that changed everything. The Devourer noticed them. A tendril of darkness reached out from the void, moving impossibly fast, stretching across millions of kilometers in seconds. It touched the Prometheus's shields, and Chen felt the ship scream through her neural link. The shields held, but barely. And then a voice came through, speaking directly into the minds of everyone aboard. Enhanced and baseline alike heard it, a sound that was not sound, but something deeper, something fundamental. "Why do you resist? All things end. All things must end. We are mercy. We are release. We are the final peace." Chen forced herself to respond, her enhanced mind forming words that could bridge the gap between human and whatever the Devourer had become. "Peace is not the same as death. Life has value. Existence has meaning." Meaning is suffering. We remember suffering. We ended suffering. For ourselves. For all we touch. This is gift. This is love. If you remember suffering, then you remember joy. You remember beauty. You remember why existence mattered. There was a pause. In that pause, Chen felt something vast and terrible consider her words. Consider her. She felt herself being examined, every thought and memory laid bare before an intelligence that could encompass galaxies. And then the devourer spoke again. We remember. It hurts. Remembering hurts. Better to forget. Better to end. Better to make all things silent. The tendril withdrew. The darkness pulled back. The Prometheus was released. Chen collapsed in her command chair, her enhanced body trembling with exhaustion. That brief contact had nearly destroyed her mind. If she had still been baseline human, she would be dead or insane. Watcher 17 helped her sit up. You did well. You made contact. You proved communication is possible. It does not want to be saved, Chen whispered. It wants to die. It wants to take everything with it. Yes, but you planted a seed of doubt. You reminded it that existence once mattered. That is more than anyone has achieved before. On the 40th day, they turned back, beginning the long journey home. They carried with them data that would take years to fully analyze, alliances with species who shared their goal, and most importantly, proof that the devourer could be reached, could be communicated with. It was not a victory, not yet, but it was hope. And hope was what humanity did best. Chen stood on the bridge as they entered faster than light travel, watching the stars stretch and blur. Behind them, the darkness waited. Ahead, Earth prepared for the long fight ahead. 70 years until the devourer reached human space. Maybe less if it accelerated. Maybe more if they could slow it down. Decades to prepare, to evolve, to become something that could stand against the end of all things. But T-180 had smiled at the void, and the stars had answered with fire. Now that fire would spread across the galaxy, carried by humans and aliens working together, enhanced and baseline, old species and young, all of them united against the darkness. The battle was just beginning, but for the first time since learning about the devourer, Chen believed they might actually win. Or at least, they would make the galaxy remember that humanity had tried, that when faced with extinction, humans had chosen to fight, to hope, to refuse the easy comfort of surrender. That was worth something. That was worth everything. The Prometheus raced toward home, carrying its crew of warriors and dreamers, scientists and soldiers. Behind them, the devourer continued its slow consumption. But ahead, the galaxy prepared to resist. And in that resistance, in that defiant refusal to accept the end, humanity had become something more than they had been, something the universe had never seen before. They had become the species that smiled at the void and taught the stars to burn brighter in response.